Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Are you feeling like you are being spread too thin? Do you feel like you need more direction or leadership, or that you've kind of gone off track and you need focus back on track? Well, Deb Coviello is from the Drop-In CEO, and we're going to talk about those things and more today. So, Deb, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you again for allowing me to have this conversation with you and your audience. Again, yes, I guess I am a mom entrepreneur. I have had a very successful 35 plus year career in corporate, greatly supported by a very supportive spouse, my best friend, three children, a nanny, all to get through trying to have calm and peace, which was sometimes not very easy. But ultimately, I then transitioned from having a wonderful career in manufacturing as the head of quality, the head of operational excellence. Life got extremely stressful. I got kicked out of the nest, which sometimes we don't own that. And the best thing ever happened to me was I got a fresh start and an opportunity to say, what value can I bring forward into the world? And especially figuring out that I can serve small and medium-sized manufacturing companies that are going through some kind of transformation. So it's been an amazing journey for me, the ups, the downs, the figuring it out, but exceptionally liberating, rediscovering who I am, and also still trying to figure out how to balance everything. So I'll pause there, but there's a lot more behind that.
Oh, I love that you said I got kicked out of the nest, because it truly is that. Like, I have a duck right now. Well, my kids do, but you know how they take care of it. And she is sitting on this nest. And I mean, she laid like 15 eggs, and we were waiting for those to all do something. And then she never would sit on them. And now she's laid these 3 eggs, and she's just being a mama duck, and she's sitting on those. And eventually they're going to be little ducklings we're excited about. And eventually she's going to kick them out. But we all start out and we get comfortable, we get warm, we get fuzzy, and we love our life. We think everything's going well. And it isn't until Mama Duck comes, or baby and Mama Eagle, and kicks them out of the nest and says, "Fly, dear, fly."
Well, I agree with you, but this was a little bit not so fun. I was
Right.
extremely stressful, and I know a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
your audience can get to these positions of higher responsibility. No work-life balance, highly stressed. And while I knew something had to change, I just exceeded my capacity or capability to figure out what needed to change. So the universe came into my favor. They said, sorry, we don't need your services anymore. That's another whole story.
Yeah.
But it hurt for about a minute. And then I said, now what? Then I said, wow, I've got some time. It's the holidays. I can focus on being with my family with not having that other stress. And for the first time, having a sabbatical, other than having three children, to say, what now can I do? So getting kicked out of the nest, well, I didn't admit it for 2 or 3 years. I
Yeah.
just said, I decided to start my own business.
Yeah.
Instead, I admit it because you know what? It happens to the best of us.
It does.
And it is a bittersweet
Mhm.
opportunity, but also a rebirth or a rediscovery of who we are.
And I think we need to talk about that more, because
Sure. Okay.
no, because I was in the same situation. I had gotten my college accredited, and I show up one day, and my boss is sitting in my office with this guy. He's like, "Sure, he's your replacement." And I had just gotten the college accredited nursing, dental hygiene, and my college was doing better than my boss's college was. And so I'm like, "Whoa, what?" And I found out that the CEO's best friend, he lived in Florida, wanted to move back to Utah, and he needed a job. So all of a sudden, mine was available, right? And I was embarrassed. And I think a lot of times people like you and I, we're high achievers. We give everything as if it was our own company. So, I mean, I was working 70-hour weeks. And so I'm sure you probably were too. And so, yeah, you have kids, but it's like, kids, I love you and I'm here for you anytime, and I'll be at your games. But this is my job, my career. I don't know. I'm assuming. Would that be true?
Well, I mean, totally true. I mean, we always
Mhm.
made sure there was a good support system for the
Right.
family. So I had one
Absolutely.
kid and my husband and I could take care of one kid. Two, well, okay, there's one for each of us. When it got to three, oh my, we actually needed a lot of help to take care of that. But we always did make sure somebody was at the baseball, the
Mhm.
soccer game. We always had somebody sitting down
Mhm.
for dinner at 6 or 6:30. But I do recall towards the end, while I may have been sitting at a lacrosse game, I am busy on my, well, what was a BlackBerry or now my cell phone, answering emails and what have you. I later realized once I was kicked out of the nest and spending some time with some people in the community. And I said, "What do you think about me when you see me come into the room?" And she says, "Well, you look really busy, but you're definitely not present." And that struck me like a ton of bricks that I'm physically present in the room, but I am not mentally engaged with the people. And that hit me home, realizing I had to slow down or make some kind of changes because one, I could fall ill if I keep up this pace. And two, where are those lasting connections that I need for that mental support?
Yeah. And I think that that's the part that my husband asked me today. He was talking on the way to work. He goes, "Sharice, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You do not seem happy right now." Well, I'm not. The amount of pressure and stress, there's a lot going on. There's a lot, right? And so I think that sometimes, and it ebbs and flows. So give me a
Yeah.
week and I'll be back up on the mountain and like, oh, the hills are alive and I'm
Mhm.
excited. But right now I'm in the valley. And so I think that those are the type of things that we all go through that. And it's not that you're rejected. I truly believe things happen for a reason, divine intervention if you don't take the leap yourself. And so that's the part that it's always a good thing. My husband, who had never, he'd always talked about, well, I've always been taken care of by God. I've done this or that. And last year he called and I go, "What are you doing home?" He goes, "I got fired." And I'm like, "What?" And this had never happened to him before. And so I think it's a very natural process. And so it's one of those things like motorcycle riders. If you haven't fallen yet or if you haven't crashed, it's not yet. Well, the same thing. If you're a high wig type person that's really like worked your way up to the ranks, you haven't gotten fired yet, it's not yet. It'll happen.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to add on to that is when we get to these junctures of change
Yeah.
in our life, it could be family, it could be work related, it could be something with our kids. Um, you have to go through the natural process of grieving or
Yeah.
feeling bad and
Hmm.
then coming out and renewing. And we as high achievers sometimes will say, well, how fast can I get back on my feet? Because I can overcome, I got to work around, I can figure this out. And that is a superpower, but it is also your demise.
Yeah.
It is one of those things that unless we give respect to a little bit of that grieving, a little bit of that pity party, when we just think that we're resilient and we've bounced back, there may be some mindset things that actually hold us back. So I recommend to like you and myself, just spend a little bit of time, even if it's just an extra day. I'm
Hmm.
just going to cook. I'm just going to organize things. I'm not even going to think about the next step. Just be, which is very hard for people that just do all the time.
Yeah, I love that. So let's get into it. Let's talk
All
about
right.
that because you said, "Now what do I do?" Right? You owned it. Now you admit it, and
Yeah.
now you're doing this great thing for people. And so, what is the drop-in CEO?
So the drop-in CEO was an accidental expression that came out of my mouth when I was a guest on a podcast. But that host nicely said, "Deb, what is it that you do?" And having left corporate, but still doing the same thing, I said, I drop into businesses that are going through some kind of transformation and crisis. I partner with that C-suite leader and we solve the business issue, but then we also elevate the team and that C-suite leader so they have the leadership skills for lasting impact. And then you pull me out
Mm.
because they don't need me anymore. And the podcast host after the show says, "Where did you come up with the drop in CEO?" And I actually said, "I don't know. It just kind of came out of my mouth." But then it was a memory that I had of a CEO when I was working in a small startup company that was in trouble. He was dropped into the organization. I was the director of quality. He rolled up his sleeves and sat with us side by side to solve the issue. And at the same time, building up my confidence. And after some time, they pulled him out and they dropped in a team to bring our company public. But I remember how that person made me feel. And he was a drop in CEO during a critical time in our transformation and personally impacting me. So the host said, "That's brilliant." And I said, no, 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 no. It's just something. But after 6 months of him talking to me, I finally owned it. I said, yeah, I am the drop-in CEO. Could I be a business consultant? Could I be a fractional quality leader or a fractional operations leader? Yeah, but the playing field is vast and there's only one drop-in CEO. So I kind of separate myself from the pack, being a little bit unique. I trademarked it. That's my brand.
Love that. And I think that sometimes, I mean, you now get to impact multiple people, not just one business. You're going to so many. And, that's, we're all put on this earth for a reason. And whether this is yours or, something else down the road, but right now, this is your purpose and your reason. And the fact that you can go impact so many more people now is the amazing thing.
And the interesting thing is when I set up my strategy and my vision for what I want, I set a theme for every year. One of my themes was go big, but actually it's now is connecting with humanity. But it was always one of those work streams was to increase my reach, to be able to reach more people than I could have just sitting in a corporate role.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is you never know how many people that you're actually inspiring. Only once somebody comes out of the woodwork or, hey, I was listening to your podcast. Do you know that episode on this actually impacted me? Then you find out, oh, maybe I am impacting more people than I think. And it fuels your soul to just keep going with that purpose, even if you're not necessarily reaching your financial goals, because society measures us on lagging indicators. Where how are you doing financially? Yes, that can bring us down. But if you think about the people that you connect with and the trajectory that you may impact because of your words, the time you gave them, or maybe help them with a business issue, you've changed the history. And that is very fulfilling to me and keeps me going.
It's so interesting because I was at this conference in Miami recently, and we're all sitting around this table because when I go to these conferences, which is quite regularly, I'm like, I've got to start putting myself out there because I go for the information, I hide. I'm like, no, I need to start networking. And
Mhm.
I mean, this was a couple years ago, I made this decision to change, but so I'm sitting at this table and we're all talking about what we do. And I said, yeah, I have this podcast. And this lady just like word vomits all of her life, a little too much. um, at first, right? And so we're all like in shock. We don't know how to respond. And then I said something about my podcast, and she's like, "Oh, I've heard of it. I've heard you. I know you." And it was interesting because I'm like, why am I doing this? My audience just seems so small sometimes, or but they don't have to necessarily subscribe. They don't have to, I mean, but if they listen to something and it makes an impact, I'm like, okay, that is why I'm doing it. And then somebody else who's going through cancer and sure he sends me a message, I really needed that today. Thank you. And it's those types of people. It's like, okay, is there a reason why I'm doing this? Because not really feeling like I have the time. And
No,
that I think is important.
no, I so get that. And again, as high performers, we measure ourselves with how many hours we put in the day. Did we get to every birthday celebration? Oh, we've got to take care of an elderly relative. We put ourselves on a pedestal, and because maybe in the past we could handle it all, and we can't now. But just know that we shouldn't be measuring ourselves necessarily by societal norms and what
Mhm.
you see on TV. I'm jogging with the baby and I'm drinking this and I'm taking this kind of thing. It's unrealistic to expect this from ourselves. What I do know now, though, is I'm investing in myself. I know that every time I connect with somebody and I get a compliment, I used to brush it off. Now I celebrate it and put it on a wall. One person that was actually coaching me at one point recently was saying, Deb, what happens when you get to that big dream? You get to those financial goals. So what? You're not living in the present and celebrating the wins. So with that, she has struck me like a ton of bricks. And I share that with the audience. Look at what you're doing every day. Are you getting a particular result or change or an impact or moving forward every day? And you're probably going to say yes on all of those fronts. It may not be that big win or that big client. So I, looking off to the side here, have this big board with hundreds of post-it notes highlighting every little positive thing that has happened to me every day. And am I getting results? Yes. But it takes a lot of little results to get to that big thing. So again, not to set your bar low, but just recognize you are making a difference every single day.
I love that. Now I want to see your board.
I'll send you a picture of it
Yeah.
later.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks. And I love that you have the insight that you have and the positivity that you have. It's inspiring.
I appreciate that. It's mostly there. And I'll be quite honest, I came from an environment in a childhood that was a lot of negativity and controversy. So out of something that was bad came good because I'm always seeking the positive in something. And I even had the reward of it all was one time my middle son, David, came to me and they said, somebody said to him, "You're always so positive." And he says, "I give that credit to you, Mom." I said, despite controversy, because sometimes we just can't control the bad things that do happen, but being positive in terms of what we can control. So, yeah, I am generally positive, but talk to my husband. I will share my negative thoughts or my pity parties with them. So, again, we may show up on social media, we may show up on a podcast looking so positive because I'm grateful we're having a conversation and sharing it with your audience. But think about all the stuff I had to do behind the scenes to get to this point, to have the opportunity to even have a conversation with you. It's a lot of work.
It is, and that's my iceberg pitch for that, right? Because the iceberg is, I mean, it's so real and it's so applicable in so many different things because,
Mhm.
and I'm talking about my book, Flipping the Iceberg, because you talk about you feel comfortable enough to share your true feelings with your husband. And sometimes you do need to show up positive. Sometimes you do, like before you asked me, Sharice, are you okay? Do you want to reschedule? And I'm like, no, I don't want to reschedule. Like, I need this today. And I know that other people need this today. And so just because it's okay to be vulnerable, but make sure that it's with those people that you're comfortable with. And other people, yeah, you do need to show up the positive person and you do need to have a different outlook. So be vulnerable, but in the right times and circumstances, I guess is what I'm saying.
And to follow up with that, I mean, if you have an opportunity to coach a client or maybe you're a consultant, I know behind the scenes and in this brain of mine, I'm looking at them and saying, "Oh my, are we going to make it through this crisis or transformation?" Because I see all the risk, but I have to keep coming forward and showing up and say, "Okay, this is what we're going to do today. This is what we're going to do tomorrow." And they will share with me their challenges, but I'll say, "Okay, great. Let me see where I can help you." And
Mhm.
inch by inch, we move forward. If nothing else, being positive and showing up positive, you build that trust so you can get through any negative or positive situations. So the positivity is needed when you're in service.
Mhm.
But like you said, I've got to go to my quiet places and go with my trusted people to say,
Mhm.
but this is how I'm feeling. Because if we don't release, again, as women, we have a lot of emotion, men as well, but we need a release for this. Otherwise, it's going to manifest inside poor health, gaining weight, not being able to deal with maybe simple situations. We need to take care of ourselves and have that pressure valve occasionally.
Yeah, it's true. And there's one more thing I wanted to add to that because I had a client, they went through a divorce, like they're divorced,
Mm.
listed their house. Ugly situation. They won't talk to each other. I did a group chat only to say, here's the things like, so I'm not having to go back and forth and you guys can hear, right? But there was a situation yesterday where he saw her for the first time in almost a year, right? And he just, Sharice, she just ruined my day. It's just her energy, or she said this, or she did that, and she ruined my day. And my response back to him was, why are you giving her that much power? And he's like, what? And I said, you're giving her all your power. Like, why would you do that? I mean, you saw her for how many minutes? Why are you giving her that much power for the rest of your day? And I think that for the longest time, I used to be that person that I let so many people, I was worried about what they thought of me. I was worried about what they were going to say. I was worried about how I was going to look, like all these different things. And I really like, why are you giving them so much power? You are the only person that has power over how you feel, what you think, how you
Mm.
act, and your choices. And so I can choose to do this or I can choose to do that. And so what am I choosing to do that's making me unhappy? And how can I change that? And if I feel stuck, or if I feel like this is the whole purpose of the podcast, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like I am not happy where I'm at, or I would really love to do this, then what's holding you back? And that's the part that you got to get through.
I mean, you're inspiring me to reflect back to some of those early days when I did jump into being an entrepreneur, a business owner was I did read a few books, a lot of books, listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of them was about being in control of your feelings, what's holding yourself back, only myself. And my husband even said to me once in this journey when, yeah, I've got some bad stuff in my history, my upbringing, and he said, "Why do you still give it relevance?" And it was kind of short-circuited me. Like you may never be able to forget bad situations or interactions, but just work hard that they may not be relevant. They may not be impacting you now. It's hard, but it gives you an opportunity, like you say, to kind of compartmentalize it and be able to move on and just know you are in control of your feelings, your actions, and how you view situations. Again, another great coping mechanism because we got so much with life coming at us.
No, and I think, I mean, we talk about, or we talked, I introduced you saying, how do you get back on track? And so, how do
Yeah.
you get the business when you feel like you've gone off the rails? How do you
Oh
help
my
people, or what's your advice to getting back on track?
Oh, well, I mean, a few things. One is just stop because if you work harder, you're just going to go like into a rabbit hole. So sometimes when I feel so frustrated, overwhelmed, I've got too much on my calendar, I actually cancel all my meetings,
Oh, I
cancel
love that.
doctor's appointments for like a day or two. I just clear the calendar and I start clearing it out for a couple of weeks because I realize I did what I did in corporate is clean up my I built up my calendar because sure. I have the capability and capacity to do more. And I can squeeze it in and be more organized. And actually, you become less efficient.
Yeah.
So I will actually take a big pause. And it's really, really, really cleansing. And I will cook and I will clean and organize, or I will just be and I'll do stupid games on my cell phone. All those things that I find are not productive are exactly what I need.
Uh-huh.
But then I clear the board and I think a little bit about what is most important and what do I want to do, which is most critical. And then I go back to where am I going to rest? Where am I going to do my exercise? Where am I going to actually put lunch into my calendar so I can make healthy choices? When am I actually going to spend a little time with my husband watching TV? And what time am I going to bed? And put that discipline back in my personal life and well being. And from there, then I can build on. Okay, what am I going to do with the podcast? And I recently made a change. I used to have guests twice a week and I stopped doing solos. Managing guests is a lot of work. I love interacting with people. I'm taking a pause. I'm
Good.
just going to show up and do my own show. That's just one example. But I actually ask people just take a mini vacation,
Mhm.
clear the calendar. Do not feel guilty because actually, when you do it, yeah, people might get a little mad at you. You're going to be able to breathe. You get a few good nights' sleep. It is exceptionally cleansing.
Mhm.
And then you can go forward. Who might you pull on? Who's a trusted advisor? Who might be able to coach you? Pull on those people that might have expertise or advice to kind of help you not make a major pivot, little course corrections. And again, I'm talking personally. I'm not talking about my book, The CEO's Compass, but CEOs, C-suite leaders as well. When they feel off track, they got to stop, pull out a compass, do a
Mhm.
little self-reflection, and then pick the path where they need to fix things.
I love that. And like right before your show or our show, I was going through my emails, which I don't check a lot for this particular business because it's not a moneymaker, it's my hobby. And when I have all these other things, like I'm not, and
Mhm.
so you're constantly, I'm sure you know this, you constantly, your email is inundated with, hey, I have this person that would be great on your show, and I have this
I know.
person, I have this person. And I'm like, and so I feel bad. I don't respond because I don't have time. I'm not going to give that time. And so there's one avenue that I use for guests, which you know because that's how you came on the show. And I just decided I'm setting myself a boundary. And so when I get this response from this person, well, I assume that you don't want guests on your show since you haven't responded to me. And so,
Oh,
I wanted like the sassy part of me said, well, you assumed wrong, or I mean, duh, yeah, that's exactly what I want. I don't want guests for my show. I mean, come on, that's stupid, right? And so, but I mean, I went through all the different ways that I could respond. I'm like, I'm clearly not in the best of moods today because that's not a kind way, and I don't want my name attached to that type of response. But I just said,
mhm.
hey, thanks anyway, I'll pass. And then I thought, no, if they want to be on my show, here's the avenue to get there. So here's a link. And if you are on this site, then I'm more than happy to schedule you that way. But if you're coming to me this other way, I'm going to pass. And so left the door open for them. If they want to do that, great. If not, that's fine too. And so it's like I set a boundary for this particular thing. That felt good.
It feels so good to set boundaries.
Mhm.
And to add on to that, though, I'll use the word violate our boundaries or we
Yeah.
kind of go around them a little bit, it's hard not to feel bad, but just know we're human.
Mhm.
Sometimes we do have to make adjustments, but just know those boundaries are there for a reason,
Yeah.
for our sanity. for us to remain positive and not snap at people. But I love that approach. And I too do the same thing. I do respond to podcast pitches, but I
Hmm.
do counter an offer for the opportunity to be on my show.
Yeah.
I offer an avenue just like you. And
Hmm.
some people bite and some people don't. But again, I have less noise and
Yeah.
chaos because I've set those boundaries.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, there's a reason it's money making or it's free, right?
I
So,
know. I mean, there is something about business. If it's not a moneymaker, do you stop doing it?
right.
And there's different schools of thought because when you think about if money is the only way that you deem value in what you're doing, then you're going to set yourself up for failure. And when you measure things like leading indicators, I met some great people. We were
Mhm.
able to do a collaboration. They were able to introduce me to somebody of value. That's why we do things because we may not see the direct value of what we're doing in
Mhm.
relationship building. But I'll tell you, podcasting has all these different
Oh my
tentacles
gosh.
and opportunities that come with.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's so true. I have absolutely loved it because of the people I've met doing this. So it's amazing.
Mhm.
Okay, our time is short. So I have one last question, and then we're going to
Excellent.
completely switch gears and we're going to talk about being a mom. But I want you to imagine yourself sitting on a park bench, and this 9-month pregnant woman comes up and sits next to you. And this is she's a first-time mom. She's super excited. And you have been through some ages of your children and phases. So, what is one piece of advice that unsolicited, because she probably doesn't know what she doesn't know and she doesn't know what to ask. So, what is one piece of advice, if you could give her any advice about being a mom, what would you give her?
So before giving advice to people in general, I start by asking questions. Because if you give advice and you don't know anything about them,
Mhm.
it might not be well received. But I think at the end of the day, what was most important to me was asking them if they have a support system because when it gets busy, you need people to be there for you physically to do things other than taking care of the child or helping you to take care of the child or helping you to achieve your well-being again. And are there people there that you can commiserate with, talk to, or even cry with? Because the crying is going to come with. So, do you have a support system? And if not, who can you reach out to in your community? That's what I would ask them.
That's beautiful.
It's so needed because motherhood is a blessing. Being a parent is a blessing. Being an aunt and uncle is a blessing to be able to build a life, create value in others, and see them blossom and grow up. But sometimes, if we don't have good coping skills, and I know I lost my cool a couple times with my small first child because I was so young at the time, and now I have different coping skills, like walk out of the room and things like that. So make sure, again, books, podcasts, your podcast, or other people, parents, uncles, help get that support for both mentally and physically.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And if our listeners want to get a hold of you, how would they find you?
Well, first of all, Sharice, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience, speak to you. But the best way to contact me is on my website, dropinceo.com. That's dropinceo.com. And go to my contact page. Let's just have a conversation. I've got some free offers there as well if you'd like. I just would love to connect with you. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, the Drop In CEO or Deborah Coviello. Would love to talk to you.
Well, thank you so much for being on.
All right. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, moms and entrepreneurs. I hope that you took something from this. I did. I definitely did. And if you feel like you've just gone off track a little bit, it's okay. Get back on. It's normal. Celebrate your wins. And ex especially in the moments where you're feeling like there aren't any, look for those and go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Sharice Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Sharice Walker.